Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, sometimes when you fight, you win. When you have the rule of law on your side and you fight, sometimes you win. When you have the Constitution on your side, sometimes if you fight, you win. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was wrongfully, unlawfully, unconstitutionally deported to El Salvador by the Trump administration, didn't just lay down and give up. He fought, and he fought, and he fought. And together with an excellent team of attorneys, he won. And today, about 5 months after he was unlawfully snatched up by some Trump law enforcement officials and unlawfully deported to a prison in El Salvador. Today, 5 months later, Abrego Garcia is a free man. Not necessarily permanently, but he just walked out of federal prison and he's heading home to Maryland to be with his family. Let's start with the new reporting. This from CNN. Headline: Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been released from criminal custody 5 months after he was unlawfully deported. And that article begins, Kilmar Abrego Garcia was released from criminal custody in Tennessee on Friday, the latest development in a dramatic legal saga surrounding the wrongly deported Maryland father of 3. This marks the first time he has not been imprisoned since the Trump administration deported him to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador in March and later brought him back to the U.S. to face human smuggling charges. Since being returned to the U.S. in June to face a pair of federal charges, Abrego Garcia has been behind bars in Tennessee, where he successfully convinced 2 federal judges to order his release while he awaits trial. But even as Abrego Garcia walked out of a jail in Tennessee Friday afternoon to make his way back to Maryland, where he was living and working before the Trump administration wrongfully deported him in mid-March, his immediate fate in the U.S. remained uncertain. Administration officials have wavered this summer on whether they would deport him before his criminal trial is scheduled to begin in January. That equivocation prompted a federal judge in Maryland to set up guardrails last month to ensure Abrego Garcia isn't hastily removed from the U.S. again. Quote, today, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is free. He is presently en route to his family in Maryland after being unlawfully arrested and deported and then imprisoned, all because of the government's vindictive attack on a man who had the courage to fight back against the administration's continuing assault on the rule of law. Sean Hecker, one of Abrego Garcia's attorneys, said in a statement, quote, he is grateful that his access to American courts has provided meaningful due process. The same day Judge Crenshaw issued his ruling releasing Abrego Garcia, the federal judge in Maryland who ordered the Trump administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return from a mega prison in El Salvador issued her own ruling that sets up guardrails intended to prevent officials from deporting him again with little regard for his due process rights. Under the order issued last month by U.S. District Judge Paula Sines, officials are barred from immediately taking Abrego Garcia into U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody. They must also restore him to the legal position he was in prior to his deportation earlier this year. You know, friends, sometimes when you fight for what's right, you win. When you fight for what's lawful and constitutional and just, sometimes you win. And today was a win not only for Abrego Garcia, but it was a win for the rule of law. It was a win for the Constitution. It was a win for the American people. Now, surely Abrego Garcia should not have had to contend with being unlawfully arrested by the Trump administration, being unlawfully deported by the Trump administration, and he certainly should not have had to suffer the torture that he suffered in that prison in El Salvador at the hands of the Trump administration. But today, he prevailed, and the rule of law prevailed, and the Constitution prevailed, and I would argue that we the people prevailed. And the reason Abrego Garcia prevailed is because still, in our United States of America, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.